And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
And our next 15 minutes up is John Oakes, and he's from Long Beach, Washington. And he fished for 25 years from Southeast Alaska, Washington, and California. Let's give a round of applause for John.
No, it's Washington. Washington? They had it wrong in the program. I'm from right over there. I was born right over there. My first trip on a boat was with that guy, who's my dad. I think I was 7, and he promised me a 2% share. And we went out, and he had the best trip of his life, and he didn't want to pay me. I think I had that like $1,200 in my bank account, probably till I was 15 and started blowing money. I was sold. Thank you, honey. I don't so much write about the ocean as I feel the ocean in my blood. Growing up in this area, I feel like she did a large part of the rearing of me. This first poem is called A Plea from the Future. And I've read it a lot of different ways. It was maybe the first poem where I felt a voice that I didn't recognize coming through the pen. And so I've got to play with who that voice was. But the poem got a name after it had lived for about 2 years when I finally found the true voice, and that's that 6-year-old little girl over there. So when I read this poem, I feel her talking to me, giving me directions, and all the future ancestors sort of standing behind her. So she's been able to orient me into how to live. It's called A Plea from the Future. Do you know me just enough to put me in a box? Do you tie me up and shove me in and try to make it lock? If it won't close, what will you do? Cut a piece so I can fit? Ask me to change the way I sit? I know you love the bits of me that fit your stories well. You think of me as part of you, something you can tell. Stay put. Stop moving. You discipline the rough edges and groom the soft pieces to keep me nice and clean. Because what you don't know, if you let me out, I will unleash the most powerful love that you have ever seen. And with it will come pain and knowing. I am your bear. I am a unicorn. I am a fucking angel of death waiting to be born and set loose upon your life to topple all the towers in my path. So when we get to the end together, we can laugh and say, nothing ever lasts. Unpack me from that box and fluff my feathers. Watch me fly and pray to gods that I bring all the weather, so you can truly know the calm after the storm. Pray to have something to mourn, something to feel, something real. Pray to break so you can heal. And we will dance across the universe, hunting our next meal. And I think that's actually the only poem you get tonight, because now I'm fresh out. I've been reading them for a couple days. No, this next, what I'm going to read you next, I've been working on for a few months. It's not quite a story. It's not quite a poem. Probably best described as a myth, but a true myth a true myth about a dragon, maybe better, a myth about a dragon that I true my own life to. And I invite you to do the same, at least for the next few minutes. What if all of us must eventually be the ones we have been looking for? The one with the dream that holds all others in its embrace. This is a shared story about the path of each human reestablishing our lives in service to a very big but intimate family of life. It is about openness, reconciliation, forgiveness, maturation, creativity, and eldership. Of remembering how to operate in virtuous relationship, putting our gifts, talents, and individual desires to good use in service of life and the lives we know are truly ours to live. In this story, we find ourselves in the wild adventure of embodiment as human. And just like the most thoroughgoing tale of all of us, there are no endings, just a series of infinite beginnings. This is a story about the world that you would like to see and a way to get there. It is a dream that began long ago in the privacy of your own heart. This story is about the only empire worth building. Its name is Dreaming in Unison. This is a story about a flood, and while it is certainly akin to the flood stories buried deep within our bones, its differences are many. In this story, the flood is a prologue, a mysterious entry point into an unknown world. A flood as the guarantor of change, so that at the beginning of our story, there is simply a choice to make among us whether we would like to have agency in the change as it rises. This flood has dawned for those of us claiming that agency. Dreaming in Unison is a ship that will be carried by and will carry us into uncharted waters. The ship doesn't need to know where it's going, for it knows that it is going everywhere eventually. It simply needs its many parts to come together cohesively so as to explore the cartography for a new world that revives our planet and our psyches. It's a vessel that will map the projects, machines, and imaginings that already exist for our better world that we all know in our hearts is possible. It is a ship to create an atlas that will be used by future generations. So now, having been beckoned into the more irradiated world of myth, a world where time is kept in moments, not minutes, a world that is more real than the real and more absolute than the factual, the life of fire, water, earth, and air, I ask you to rest your mind in this tale and to allow yourself for a moment to become an answered prayer. I invite you to board this ship with me. Once upon a time, there was one possibility among many, but one that took hold upon many. It was this: as the sentience known as Earth circled her loving sun while they explored a galaxy called the Milky Way, the creatures known as human had learned all they could from their institutions of control. Through 100,000-year age, they had visited all the dark corners of their own mind and were readying themselves for the wild journey of complete immersion into the next iteration of human dynamics. Thus, I have heard, here there was genuine freedom. Here there was the presence of love, the presence of genius, and the many presence of presence cultivated by a new and truer way of being human. This dream of freedom began in many hearts, and in short order resulted in disparate groups of networks established one at a time. Communities of individuals self-organizing new paradigms of living, working, loving, and governing inconspicuously, but most importantly, harmoniously, rose to an empowered political positionality, amidst the falling away of nation states and old world antics that no longer could support the evolution called forth by the intelligence of these earth-conscious collectives. It was ultimately loving, patient, methodical, and yet it happened much faster than its progenitors expected. This is so because they were brought together to perceive themselves not as separate endeavors, but as a metaphysical movement, as a relationship brought together to dream in unison. The bow of the ship was an exalted lifestyle choice vested in the sacredness of life, immersed in a praxis of presencing the best in ourselves and one another. It is a practice that was essential for evolution, continuously cultivated to combat warfare of all kinds, continuously elaborated to cull true welfare in all minds. The rudder of the ship adjusted its course moment to moment, bridging a world in transition, opening doors to more natural and evolutionary ways of being, making love where love had yet to be made. Recognizing their dreaming in unison, these sundry networks of people, now self-organized into network states, progressively evolved themselves toward a borderless nation based on meritocracy. This meritocracy was made possible by the decentralization of blockchain and AI technology, beset with the parameters of growing ontological literacy among these communities. This was a choice to be with life as it expands rather than manipulate it for control. Life felt loved by its inhabitants, and as a natural consequence, began to love back more. Finally, life awakening to life, rather than remaining unconscious consumers of it. A story of making love, a call to what it means to live in and as the community of life, as a response to what has not worked about conformity. As each network state established itself, being birthed by the willingness to truly learn how to take care of itself, ourselves, the self, each of these networks was then conceived of as a scale of a dragon being established on a new map of a new world. What was nations predicated on sameness and separation became communities aligned in service. Ensconced in these revelatory scales, humanity had birthed an awake, aware, and very spirited dragon named Earth.
Base sculpting was a livelihood for most of us here. Mackerel clouds overhead are moving on. We call it a sailor sky, and the wind lightens, flattening the water, bringing a following tide.
Thanks for talking to us today. Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
My name is Ken Kastner, and I'm from Homer, Alaska.
Whoa, Homer, did you come all the way from Homer for this event?
I did.
I'm speechless. So let me think real quick here. Please tell me your story and what motivated you to come down here and what you're doing in the FisherPoets Gathering.
Well, my sweetie of 51 years is one of the presenters here, and this is her fourth Fisher Poets. So normally I would not be attending, but this year I said, okay, I'm coming. And so I had meetings in Juneau, and we came from Juneau to here, and I'm flying back tomorrow. But it's been fun so far.
Well, what was your favorite? Okay, you do have a favorite, so unbiased, what was your other favorite thing so far?
Well, I was at the Liberty Theater all last night, and there were some really wonderful things, and I don't even remember the cowboy Fisher poet. he came out with a costume that was split in half. He had a hip boot on one leg and a cowboy boot on the other leg, and he had made a garment that was a half a fishing jacket and half a cowboy vest, and he called himself a transfishmite. So, no, he's quite funny and a great poet, and he's known for cowboy poetry, but he's been coming here for years and years, and he's just part of the crowd now. So that was fun.
What else can we tell folks that will entice them to come and maybe give them any tips of good ways to enjoy themselves?
Well, it's an event that incites some creativity in everybody. So I've written a couple of poems. One of them got read last night, and then I'm going to compete tonight in the competition, the 30-second competition, where you have to include the word full moon, and it has to be 30 seconds, and you have to have 5 Bodhi prepositions. So anyway, I've got that composed, but I'm in the first line and the last line has to be the same except different.
Well, we think we're going to try and be there tonight to witness that, so we'll look forward to seeing you again, and thanks for stopping to talk with us.
Sure. What's this for?
Oh, did I not start with that? So we're working on a FisherPoets Gathering archive, and it's our buddy's pet project, and he gets the equipment, and we come out and we record a lot of the performances, as many as we can get to.
Yeah.
We set up in 2 or 3 venues. We record the performances, and then we do these little on-street interviews, and then he does a whole bunch of editing and tries to upload them and get them all uploaded to Facebook.
Where were you last night?
We were at Astoria Brewing Company. He was live streaming at Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Okay. Well, good. Good luck with your project.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for stopping and helping us out.
Sure.
Appreciate it.